He has been principal of ceremony to some of the biggest moments in our nation's history.
Did you ever think that you would be the person who gave a sermon at the funeral of a queen and crowned a king?
Never. Not for one solitary second. I assumed that I would be a parish priest, and that's what I felt called to be.
His role as religious leader for 85 million Anglicans worldwide was under pressure after a review found the Church of England covered up for child abuser John Smythe, that Welby himself failed to ensure his former friend was investigated. But the woman who broke the story feels it's wrong to blame the Archbishop.
I'm personally very sad about this. I don't think it's at all appropriate to blame him. He, as soon as he knew in 2013, he checked that it had been reported to police and social services, and he was told it had been.
Welby's departure leaves the church in turmoil. His replacement to be selected in a process involving a Church of England panel, the Prime Minister and the monarch, which typically takes 9 months. Jason Farrell, Sky News.
So just how damaging is all this to the Church of England, and where does it go next? Joining us tonight, Chief Executive of the British Humanist Association, Andrew Copson, alongside the Chief Executive of Christian Media Group, Premier Kevin Bennett. Good evening to you both. Andrew, I'll come to you first, if I may, Andrew Copson. I've heard this described as a watershed moment for the Church of England, and I can't work out whether that's in a positive or a negative sense.
Well, I think it certainly illustrates, again, the inappropriateness of a church, just one church, which most people aren't members of, being so implicated into the state. I mean, if Justin Welby were just the leader of one of the many religion and belief groups in this country, and he was disgraced in this way and he had to resign in this way, that institution would have to deal with that. They would have to look after the people that they were responsible for, but it wouldn't be such a public scandal in the same way. It wouldn't become such a public issue. I mean, he wasn't just the leader of a religious organisation. He is a public figure. When he was appointed by David Cameron, he became extremely powerful, as we've heard. He campaigned against same-sex marriage in Parliament. He got to vote on laws. And I think that the fact that the church is still implicated in with our state is one of the things that this throws into relief, and hopefully it'll be a watershed moment for that, because I think it illustrates that we shouldn't be shackled to each other in this way, state and church, and that one of the benefits, if we weren't shackled together, might be that the church would be able to appoint people who were perhaps, more qualified in safeguarding, for whom the job of running their church was their only job, rather than just part of their wider public role.
Kevin, in what way do you feel this is a watershed moment?
I think there's an opportunity here to really make a big change in the way the church has handled safeguarding issues. I think it's really telling that after all of the scandals that have happened, that the head to roll is the man at the top. I hope in many respects that that's a good sign. This has often been an issue which has not been treated at the appropriate level. And now I think the church has an opportunity from the very top of its organisation to move forward with proper systems and processes in place to improve the safeguarding for the next generation.
Yeah, tales of abuse in the church are nothing new, whether it's Catholic or Church of England. And Kevin, something struck me in Justin Welby's resignation letter. He talked about the shame and the struggle for the last 12 years to make effective changes to safeguarding children. And as Andrew, said there, in what other institution or organisation would that be allowed to happen? Children, young people, not safe, at risk in an organisation, an institution that can't guarantee the safeguarding of children effectively. People will be asking tonight, Kevin, is that an institution that is fit for purpose?
Well, I think if it was in the shape it should be, we wouldn't see the Archbishop resigning today. So I think those are really, really quite valid questions. The church does need to get its house in order, and I think that the public need absolute reassurance that that would be the case. But I also think it's worth remembering that kind of institutional abuse is something which has been seen across a wide strata of society, in boarding schools, in aid agencies. And the church is a very large organisation in contact with a lot of vulnerable people, and so we see it there as well. And a lot of this is to do with us as a nation, us as a culture, and how we've actually treated victims, how we've believed victims, how we've dealt with issues that have been raised, whether they've been swept under the carpet or whether they've been reported.
Surely the church should be leading the way then. As you said, this is a societal problem. It does happen in other places, but the church is meant to be different. The church is about looking after the vulnerable, trust, faith in essence. It should be leading the way. And Justin Welby has gone, but the problem has not. So what does the church now do? Because, there are bishops, there are leading figures at Lambeth Palace. Should Justin Welby be the only person to go, Kevin, do you think?
Well, I think that needs to be established. And I think if there are people who have not reported things, if people who have not properly dealt with these issues, absolutely, further heads should roll. You're right, that as a Christian, I want the church to be a beacon of, upright behaviour in this area. And I do hope that the incoming Archbishop seizes the opportunity and the mandate they're going to be given to make that the case.
Yeah, Andrew, in this case, it seems to have been institution before individual. We talk about cover-ups and, the church not alone in this kind of scandal. It has happened before. And whenever we talk about these scandals, we talk about culture change. And the church, we're talking, hundreds of years, but we are talking about a panel of key people. It's not just the Archbishop of Canterbury. I'll put that question to you as well. Do you think other people should be asked to leave the church because of this? The Archbishop of Canterbury is not on his own.
I think anyone in any institution that's presided over or been responsible for safeguarding failures should receive the right sort of treatment, whether it's suspension or standing down or other sorts of training or discipline. And, I'm not familiar with all the details within the Church of England of whatever abuse and cover-ups there have been. I think you're right, of course, to say that many institutions have either been safe for abusers or have covered up abuse. But I think there are two differences from other institutions when it comes to something like the Church of England. The first is the deference that so many people still pay to religious organisations, the sort of mystique that surrounds them and keeps them more immune from criticism or scrutiny, which has meant them actually lagging behind, and in this case very clearly lagging behind some other secular or other state institutions. And the second, like I said at the beginning, is this power that the church has. This is not just a church. This is part of the state. We will never know how immune or shielded from criticism or justice either the Archbishop of Canterbury or others have been because of the state nature of the church. But it'd be very strange if that didn't play some part in the way that people were able to not provide justice to the victims. And I think that comes back to what I was saying. That's why that has to change. The church shouldn't be part of the state anymore, because that allows it to be more immune from criticism than it should be.
Kevin, how damaging is this to the church? I mentioned their trust, faith. It's right at the heart of the church. How damaging is this? How far removed are people that go to church every Sunday, all across England? They feel very far removed from the scandal. This isn't the faith that they know. What is this doing to the future of the Church of England?
Absolutely, it's damaging. You only have to look at the experience of the Roman Catholic Church in Ireland in the wake of scandals there and the complete change of standing it's had in society. But we have to remember that there are about 16,000 Anglican churches across this country, just taking them alone, and the vast majority of people are experiencing supportive, a really good environment. And so this will be very divorced from what most people experience of a church that helps the poor, that provides youth work, that does debt relief. Nonetheless, it's incredibly important, and one instance is too much, but it's not the experience of most people of the church.
This feels like a bizarre question to be asking about the Church of England, because I feel like I've asked it of so many other organisations and institutions caught up in these kind of scandals. But does the Church of England almost need an independent body to oversee it? Kevin, what's your view on that? And I'll put that to you as well, Andrew.
I think as far as it relates to safeguarding, some form of external validation would go a long way to restoring confidence and trust. I wouldn't suggest that it needs external oversight for everything it does, but certainly in this matter, that could be a big help to restoring confidence.
Andrew, your thoughts on that? Because, we are talking about safeguarding the most vulnerable, and in a place where, they are led to believe they are going to be the safest.
Well, that's right. I think, many bodies, especially those that deal with either vulnerable adults or vulnerable children, will have external safeguarding arrangements. I think certainly external review of safeguarding arrangements is always very wise. I think that it is more likely that there will be more scrutiny and a higher level of safeguarding within something like the Church of England if it has to stand on its own 2 feet separate from the state and is subject to the same rules as any other organisation, and that should include some external element.
Andrew Copson, CEO of the British Humanist Association, and Kevin Bennett, CEO of Premier, the Christian Media Group. Thank you both for your time this evening. They're reacting to the resignation of the Archbishop of Canterbury.